I had been single for almost 2 years, and according to my best friend, Emma, that was officially a crisis. "You need to start dating again," she announced one Friday evening. I looked up from my coffee. "I'm not dating. You're 30. So you've been married to your job since you graduated." "I like my job. You once canceled a dinner because your spreadsheet wasn't finished." It was an important spreadsheet. Emma stared at me. I stared back. She sighed. "This is exactly what I mean." I laughed. "Why do you care so much?" "Because I have a plan." That sentence should have terrified me. Instead, I made the mistake of asking, "What plan?" Emma leaned across the table. "I want you to go on a terrible date." I nearly choked on my coffee. A terrible date? Yes, a fake terrible date. That makes absolutely no sense. It does if you listen. She explained that her cousin's friend, Daniel, had been bragging about how he could get any woman to fall for him. Emma wanted to teach him a lesson. "And you want me to pretend to be the woman he disappoints?" "Exactly." "No. Please. No. Please." "Emma. Just one evening." I should have walked away. Instead, after 20 minutes of begging, I agreed. The plan was simple. I would meet Daniel at an expensive restaurant downtown. He would arrive late, act arrogant, complain about the menu, and spend the evening talking about himself. I would play along. Then I would leave. It was supposed to be funny. It wasn't. The next evening, I arrived at the restaurant wearing a simple black dress. I checked my phone. Emma had sent me one final message. "Remember, make it believable." I rolled my eyes. 5 minutes later, a man walked through the restaurant doors. He was tall, sharply dressed, and carrying himself with the confidence of someone who expected everyone to notice him. He looked around. Then he walked directly toward me. "Are you Sarah?" I smiled politely. "Yes." He sat down without apologizing for being late. "So," he said, "tell me something interesting about yourself." I almost laughed. The evening went exactly as Emma predicted. Daniel complained about the restaurant. He criticized the waiter. He talked about his expensive car. Then he spent 15 minutes explaining why his last girlfriend had been too emotional. I nodded and tried not to smile. Finally, I decided the performance was over. "I'm going to leave," I said. Daniel looked surprised. "You're leaving?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because this is a terrible date." He laughed. "You're actually serious?" "Very." I stood up. But before I could take another step, someone behind me spoke. That might be the most honest review this restaurant has received all week. I turned. A man stood a few feet away. Dark suit. Calm expression. No arrogance. He looked vaguely familiar. Daniel immediately stood. "Mr. Carter." The man's eyes moved toward him. "Daniel." The tone changed everything. Daniel suddenly looked nervous. The stranger looked at me. "I'm sorry," he said. I couldn't help overhearing. I smiled awkwardly. "No problem." He glanced at the empty chair. "Is this seat taken?" I should have said yes. Instead, I said no. He sat down. "My name is Ethan Carter." I nearly dropped my purse. Ethan Carter. The same Ethan Carter who had just been announced as the new CEO of the company where I worked. I stared at him. He smiled. "I guess you've heard of me." I swallowed. "Everyone has." He laughed softly. "And you?" "I work at Carter and Reed." His eyebrows rose. "Then we might be seeing a lot of each other." I had no idea how much that sentence would change my life. Because the next morning, when I walked into the office, everyone was gathered around the lobby. And standing beside the reception desk was Ethan Carter, the new CEO. His eyes found mine immediately. And he smiled. Not the professional smile he'd given everyone else. A personal one. I suddenly realized something. My fake bad date had just introduced me to the most important man in my career. And I had absolutely no idea what he wanted from me. Monday morning was chaos. Everyone wanted to meet Ethan. Employees whispered in the hallways. Managers suddenly dressed better. People who had never cared about company meetings were volunteering for presentations. I tried to disappear into my office. That lasted exactly 7 minutes. "Sarah?" I looked up. Ethan stood in my doorway. My heart stopped for half a second. "Yes." Do you have a minute? Of course. He stepped inside. I closed my laptop. He looked at the reports on my desk. I reviewed your department's quarterly numbers. I waited. You're one of the strongest analysts here. I blinked. Thank you. I also noticed your name on the promotion recommendations. My stomach tightened. I didn't know those were finalized. They aren't. He smiled. I want your opinion. My opinion? Who deserves the promotion? I stared at him. Why ask me? Because you're the only person in this department who didn't spend the morning telling me how brilliant everyone else is. I laughed. You noticed? I notice a lot. His eyes stayed on mine for a second too long. Then he left. That afternoon, Emma called. So what? Did you meet the new CEO? I hesitated. Yes. Was he handsome? Emma. That means yes. I sighed. Then I told her everything. When I mentioned that Ethan had sat at my table, Emma screamed. You met the CEO on your fake bad date? Yes. And you didn't tell him it was fake? No. Sarah, I barely know him. You have to tell him. I know. But I didn't. And the secret became harder to keep. Over the next few weeks, Ethan and I worked together constantly. He was surprisingly different from the man I had imagined. He wasn't cold. He wasn't arrogant. He listened. He remembered small details. During meetings, he often asked for my opinion. Eventually, people started noticing. One afternoon, I entered the conference room early. Ethan was already there. You're early, he said. So are you. He smiled. Maybe I was hoping you'd come early. I laughed nervously. That's a dangerous thing for a CEO to say. Why? Because people talk. Let them. I looked at him. He seemed serious. Before I could respond, the conference room door opened. The entire executive team walked in. The moment disappeared. But something had changed. I could feel it. Ethan wasn't just interested in my work anymore. And I was beginning to feel the same. Then, one evening, I received a message from Emma. We need to talk. I called immediately. What happened? Her voice sounded nervous. Sarah, I think Daniel knows. Knows what? That the date was fake. My heart sank. How? I don't know. Did you tell him? No. Then who did? There was silence. Emma? She finally whispered. I think someone at your company told him. The next morning, rumors spread through the office. Someone had leaked details about my date with Daniel. People were saying I had deliberately staged the entire evening. Worse, someone had told Ethan. I found him standing in his office, holding a printed copy of the restaurant reservation. My name was highlighted. He looked at me. Was this date fake? I couldn't speak. Sarah. Yes. His expression changed. Why? I explained everything. Emma. Daniel. The stupid plan. The fake date. When I finished, Ethan was silent. Then he asked quietly. Was meeting me part of the plan? No. He looked away. For the first time since I'd met him, he seemed genuinely hurt. I believe you, he said. I exhaled. But I need some space. He walked toward the window. And I realized that the little secret I had thought was harmless had become something much bigger. Because I hadn't just hidden the truth from a man. I had hidden it from the one man whose opinions suddenly mattered more than I wanted to admit. For the next 2 weeks, Ethan kept his distance. He remained professional. Nothing more. I missed the conversations. The jokes. The way he used to look at me when I walked into a room. But I respected his decision. Then everything changed during the company's annual charity event. I was helping organize the evening when I noticed Daniel. He was standing near the entrance. My stomach dropped. Sarah. I turned. Emma was beside me. Why is he here? I don't know. Daniel walked toward us. I thought you might want to know something. I crossed my arms. What? I didn't leak your secret. I frowned. Then who did? He looked toward the ballroom. Ask the person who wanted Ethan to distrust you. Before I could respond, Daniel walked away. Emma and I exchanged confused looks. Who would want that? I didn't know. Until I remembered something. A senior executive named Victor had been openly against Ethan's appointment. And Victor had never liked me either. I went looking for him. I found him in a private hallway, speaking with another executive. I stopped when I heard my name. She was perfect, Victor said. The other man laughed. You really think Ethan will fire her? He already doubts her. I stepped into the hallway. Excuse me. They froze. Victor turned. Sarah, what did you do? He smiled. You should be careful accusing people without proof. I heard everything. No, you heard part of a conversation. Then Ethan appeared behind me. What conversation? Victor's face went pale. Ethan looked between us. Victor. Silence. Ethan's expression hardened. Come to my office. Victor left with him. I stood there confused. 10 minutes later, Ethan returned. He looked exhausted. I owe you an apology. I shook my head. For what? I should have trusted you. He handed me his phone. On the screen was a message from Victor. Apparently, Victor had manipulated information about my fake date and sent it anonymously to Ethan. He wanted Ethan to believe I had planned the entire situation to get close to him. It had almost worked. I looked up. Why? Because Victor thought you were loyal to the previous management. I laughed bitterly. So this was all politics? Mostly. Mostly? Ethan looked at me. The rest was my mistake. I didn't know what to say. He stepped closer. I was angry because I realized I cared about you. My heart raced. You're my boss. I know. And this is complicated. I know. And people will talk. They already do. I smiled. For the first time in weeks, he smiled too. Then he said something I never expected. Sarah, would you go on a real date with me? I stared at him. No fake plans? No. No pretending? No. No secret mission? Absolutely not. I laughed. Then yes. But before we could say anything else, the ballroom doors opened. Everyone inside turned toward us. And Emma's face lit up. She mouthed. Finally. I laughed. For the first time, everything felt simple. Until Ethan's assistant rushed toward us. Mr. Carter, we have a problem. Ethan turned. What happened? The board just called an emergency meeting. Why? His assistant hesitated. They're voting on whether you should remain CEO. The smile disappeared from Ethan's face. And I realized our problems were far from over. The emergency board meeting lasted 3 hours. I waited outside with Ethan's assistant. When the doors finally opened, Ethan walked out. I stood. Well, he looked at me. We won. I smiled. Congratulations. He shook his head. No. We won because you helped expose the truth. I barely did anything. You did enough. The board had removed Victor from his position after reviewing the evidence. But Ethan wasn't finished. He walked over to me. There's something else. What? I've decided to change the company's policy. Which policy? Relationships between executives and employees. My smile disappeared. Ethan. He shook his head. Not because of us. He explained that the company would introduce clearer rules requiring disclosure and preventing conflicts of interest. Then he looked at me. And I've asked the board to move you to a different division. I stared at him. You're transferring me? Promoting you. I blinked. What? You're becoming director of strategic operations. I couldn't believe it. But why? Because you've earned it. I smiled. And what happens to us? He smiled back. That depends. On what? Whether you'll go on that real date with me. I laughed. You're asking again? I want to make sure there are no fake plans this time. That evening, we met at a small restaurant far away from the company. No expensive ballroom. No coworkers. No executives. No fake date. Just two people sitting across from each other. Ethan looked at me. So, tell me something real. I smiled. I hate first dates. He laughed. Then why are you here? Because this isn't really a first date. Why not? Because I already know you. He raised an eyebrow. What do you know? I thought for a moment. That you're kinder than people think. He smiled. And? That you pretend to be confident when you're actually nervous. He laughed. That's unfair. And that you always tap your fingers on the table when you're thinking. He looked down at his hands. You notice that? I notice a lot too. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then my phone buzzed. It was Emma. How's the real date? I showed Ethan. He laughed. Your best friend is going to be a problem. She usually is. A second message appeared. I still think the fake date was my best idea ever. I typed back. It was terrible. Ethan leaned closer. Was it? I smiled. The date was. And meeting me? I looked at him. That part was surprisingly good. He smiled. And, just like that, the worst date of my life became the beginning of the best chapter of it. Because sometimes the plans that go completely wrong are the ones that lead you exactly where you're supposed to be. Emma had asked me to fake a bad date. I agreed because I thought it would be one ridiculous evening. I never imagined I'd walk into that restaurant expecting a disaster. And walk out having met the man who would completely change my future.